So this talk today is going to be on analemma. This analemma is something like it is generally happening. People do know it, but still there are some many interesting facts that we are yet to know about analemma. Um, this analemma and other stuff here, what I'm going to speak are seen by the ancient astronomers or Indian astronomers. They had a lot of ideas regarding this, and they had many inferences and many decisions taken with respect to the analemma. So this is mostly kind of a tribute to the ancient astronomers who are far more greater than the current ones, because we have a lot of equipments and we do a lot of research. Whereas in those times, they just observe stuff, collect data, and they found these interesting stuff. Google, next slide. Okay, so analemma is the figure of eight transit that our sun makes in the sky period of a day throughout the year. So when you see sun, for example, you can try this out. Just go like tomorrow, wake up and see where the sun rises. I'm sorry if it is difficult for you if you're a late riser, but still, if you could wake up where the sun rises, it will be mostly not on east, but nearly at northeast. It seems like it is the time period where the sun rises at northeast. And if you give a period of 6 months, you can drastically see that the sun shift towards the south and the sun rises at around southeast corner. So this is what the analemma figure traces. So this is a photographic image of the analemma that we generally used to see in this time. Google, next slide. So this is the analemma of sun. The sun, the previous picture was a photographical data of the analemma, whereas this is a real-time data which I collected and plotted here. So I have used Desmos graphing calculator here, and the data collected were the altitude and azimuthal of the sun, and from that I have plotted this. The software which I used was Stellarium. Okay, this is a common analemma of the sun. Next slide. This is something that you might kind of feel weird or new to you. Even our natural satellite, Moon, also forms an analemma. And this analemma is like, whereas the like you want, if you want to capture the analemma of Moon, there is a totally different concept and approach for it and how to capture it. Many of you would have seen it, the analemma of the Moon as a photographical image, where people would have composite an image and have shown you there. But still, those images are photographed, like Photoshop. So those aren't the proper analemma which is formed. Whereas this is the true analemma. You can see that there is a small lobe at the bottom where it forms the eight. So this is an analemma. So let's see what actually causes the analemma. Next slide, please. Okay. So the analemma is actually caused by the rotation and the revolution of Earth around the sun. So like the Earth rotates. Due to this, you can see a 24-hour change in the. You can see a 24-hour lapse in the position of the sun. Whereas at the same time, since the Earth revolves around the sun, we also have a planetary transit of the sun. It changes its position, and all the changes which happens at the sun's position throughout the sky is because of these both factors. But if you could further simplify it into simple parts, it is actually nothing but is caused by two harmonic oscillators. Rotation of the Earth is also a harmonic oscillator, where after completing a 360-degree rotation, you again come to the initial position, and similar with the revolution. So this is what. So even by using Fourier series, you can split the analemma's motion and you can form an equation. So let's see how like how two harmonic oscillator forms an analemma. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an Python simulation which I have used here. Here the blue line here, this blue line over here is actually an harmonic oscillator whose x-axis has been fixed, whereas the y-axis oscillates. You can see from the code, it is mostly a sine function, where what I have used here. This is the first code that the math sine y. So that is the harmonic oscillator over here. Whereas the orange line over the top is nothing but the harmonic oscillator whose y-axis is fixed, but x-axis oscillates. Now, what I'm going to do is that when I keep the x-axis of the blue harmonic oscillator and the y-axis of the orange harmonic oscillator, it oscillates at the same position. But what if I take the y coordinates of the blue oscillator and the x coordinate of the orange oscillator? So what I get is actually an analemma 8 that you can see in the pic. So this is the analemma that is being formed. So this analemma here now can be explained by a factor of 2 harmonic oscillators. It is not necessary, like you can notice that both the harmonic oscillators that I have taken here are at sine function. It is not, Google next slide. It is not necessary that both these should be an sine function. Even a cos function will tend to you an analemma. So this is an example of how this analemma is actually there. Okay, so next slide, please. So yeah, so we have seen that planets, celestial bodies like sun and moon form analemma when seen from Earth. So it is possible with the other planets, because planets like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and all. So what I was telling you was, I have told you that this analemma is possible because of 2 harmonic oscillators. And if that is the case, even the rotation of the Earth and the revolution of other planets is also an 2 harmonic oscillator which plays a role. Then is it possible for the other planets like Jupiter and Mars to have an analemma in the celestial sky? So let's see what's the answer. Next slide, please. So the answer is yes, it's possible, but actually we don't see those analemmas. So let's see why is that. Next, please. The harmonic oscillators that are actually like how to say governing the position of a celestial body in the sky should be just right, so that they mimic the harmonic oscillator that is formed with respect to the harmonic oscillator which I have showed in the code. If you would have noticed, so like if you have noticed it clearly, you would have seen it that the codes, the harmonic oscillator, one was a full harmonic oscillator, the other had a frequency which is half of the previous harmonic oscillator. If you could go back to the slide, Pugal, can you? Okay, fine. This is fine. If you go back to this, if you look here, you can see that there are 2 harmonic oscillators, and one has a full frequency. The other's frequency is half of it. You can come to the previous slide, the back slide, the slide which we were in. Sorry. Fine. What I was telling to tell is that if the celestial movements could mimic an harmonic oscillation, that it can mimic the harmonic oscillator between 2 harmonic oscillators that has a frequency of 1:2, then the celestial body can result and they can result in an analemma like figure in this transit in the sky. But not all the planets like Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus, and all, they don't satisfy this condition. So again, with the help of the codes, let's see what happens. Next slide, please. Okay. So you can consider the frequency of the harmonic oscillator between the rotation of the Earth and the time taken by like a planet like Jupiter or Saturn. The frequency, they are too voluminous that they have the frequencies have a ratio of 1:6. You get me right? Earth rotates faster with respect to the time taken by Jupiter or Saturn to complete one full rotation. It is said that Jupiter takes 12 years to complete its rotation and Saturn 30 years. So if that is the case, the ratio increases, and what you get in the sky is nothing but not an annulima, but a weird shape that doesn't resemble an annulima. And next slide, Pugal. And if you consider a planet like Mars, what happens here is that the celestial alignments are such that the frequency of the revolution of Mars and the rotation of the Earth are in such case that they mimic an harmonic oscillator which have the same frequency. Their frequency ratio is 1:1. If such is the case, what you get is actually a circle. You don't get any other patterns in the sky, but you get more or less like kind of a circle in the sky. So what if for the planets which are closer to sun, like for example Venus or Mercury? Next slide, Paul. Okay. So what here happens is that the frequency ratio, yeah, so that is the case that you find the Mars, the transit of the Mars when seen from Earth. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so this is for Venus, like planets like Venus, which have a faster whose frequency is kind of smaller than the frequency of the rotation of the Earth. So what happened? Like they mimic in such way that it is lesser than that. So what happened here is that it again forms a weird image. So these are the factors that prevent other celestial bodies, when seen from Earth, doesn't form an annulima. So the next slide, please. And also one more thing to add here is that these celestial bodies, due to the difference in the velocity that they have while in an orbit due to Kepler's law, they at times start retrograding. These retrograding phenomenon totally, how to say, it doesn't form an annulima, but rather than that, it gives you a weird shape that is generally seen with the planet's motion. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to add a additional point here, these planetary motions played a major role in art traditions in the form of kolam or rangoli. People, elders believed that when we mimic the planetary positions of the in the celestial sky within our homes or nearby our homes, they believe that the blessings of those planets will be imparted on us. So that's the reason behind all those rangolis and kolam tradition in our Indian system. So this thing shows us how important were astronomy in the ancient Indian traditions and culture. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, fine. So now is another question. Is annulima of sun seen from other planets? For example, if you want to see the annulima of the sun from a planet like Venus or Mars, so is it possible? Guys, do you think it's possible? If yes, you can use the chat box to express your ideas if you want. Okay, fine. Okay, so majority of the people have told me that annulima is possible. Uh, okay, Pugal, can you go for the next slide? Yeah, well, yes, but actually, no. It is possible for other planets to have annulima, but unfortunately, they don't form the annulima. Let's see why. The next slide, please. So this is the annulima of Sun seen from Mars. So this data is actually possible due to the series of rovers that we have sent to Mars to analyze the Martian surface. Along with those, they have also tracked the position of the sun throughout the sky. And this is what the annulima or the shape which they have got. So you can find out this is not the basic annulima that we see in our sky, a figure of 8, but it is more of a teardrop shape. Okay, the next slide, please. So what went out here? Like what went wrong here is that apart from the ratio of the frequencies which are governing the rotation of the Mars and the revolution of the Mars, they being equal, the image that you get is not of analemma, but more of but more a circle. So Google the next slide, please. Okay, so since the ratios are equal, you can find out the image, like the figure that the sun seems to form is more like a circle. Google, can you go for the analemma of the Mars? Yeah. So here it is actually a circle that has been depicted here, but still there are certain anomalies that it has made it to be a teardrop shape. Let's see what are those. The next slide, please. So apart from this ratio of the frequencies that mimic the transit that we have seen till now, there is also factors like eccentricity of the orbit around which the planet from which you are looking at the sun, and also the tilt of the axis of rotation of the planet that you are from which you are observing also has a role in the in determining the shape of the analemma. So if the orbit is more eccentric, like the if the Mars orbit is too eccentric, what happens is that rather than it being a circle, it tends to be an ellipse, an elongated one. So that is what is actually seen with the previous image of the analemma of Mars. And similarly, if we have an axis of tilt on the axis of rotation to be zero, what happens is that the two lobes which forms the figure of 8, right? The 8 has two lobes, right? So those lobes come almost in an equal size. If you could remember the previous images which I have shown you earlier, you can see that the one of the lobe was kind of too big and the other was small. So this is because of the factor that our Earth is actually tilted, the axis of rotation is tilted, and that's why the difference in the lobes that we find out. Else, if we have a no tilt axis where the axis is perfect along the 90-degree rather than it being tilted 23.4, so we would get an 8 where the lobes are perfect. Like you can see an 8 which is you see in the textbooks and other stuff. The next slide, please. Okay. The next slide, please. Okay, so this is what the eccentricity which I was meaning of. So when it is a circle, the eccentricity of the circle is 0, and when things tend to go on, it reaches till when it forms an ellipse, its eccentricity reaches 1. Fact is, like we don't get eccentricity of 2 because it's hyperbola, and in general we don't get a hyperbolic path or any harmonic oscillator which undergoes hyperbola. So only till ellipse we tend to stop, not even parabola. So yeah, so this is the thing. The next slide, please. Okay, so this is what in this graphical stimulations we have taken x-axis and the y-axis to be perpendicular, right? So that's why we can get a proper rate. If this x-axis, rather than it being perpendicular to the y-axis, if it was kind of tilted more, like it was inclined in such way that both are like similar to the earth conditions, then the analemma which we see here will definitely have differences in the each lobes. So yeah, the next slide, please. Okay, so this is another interesting part. Till now we were discussing what causes analemma and what are the factors that determine the shape of the analemma and all those stuff. Now we are going to see certain inferences that can be made from analemma. So the next slide, please. Okay. Before going for the top fact, we'll come to the bottom fact. These people, mostly the ancient astronomers from India, they had this habit of constantly looking at the sky, collecting data of its motion and transit, and therefore, way before the Western civilization, they were able to accept the heliocentric model of the solar system. They were able to determine that sun was the center through which all this planet depend or rely on, and the how to say, there are well written documents way back from 5th century, for example Aryabhatiya by Aryabhatta, where they used to consider the heliocentric model to explain many factors. So yeah, that's something to add on. And apart from that, this ANLIMA is also used to find out certain time anomalies that we face in our day-to-day life, and also to find out which part of the year you are currently in. This was vital for the ancient people who were totally dependent on the sun and other factors to determine what period it is, whether it's summer, winter, and all those things. So that in that way too, analyzing this analyma, especially I'm talking about the sun, helped a lot more. So the next slide, please. Okay, before talking about the time anomaly, so let's have an interesting story. Uh, okay, you can see the constellation on the right, to your right hand side. So that is Betelgeuse. I'm sorry, that is Orion, which has the infamous Betelgeuse. So this Orion is pretended to be a great warrior who had the valor equivalent to that of Hercules. He was so valor, he was so powerful, and he was one of the greatest hunter of his times. So what happened was the gods wanted to test his valor, so they sent him a Scorpio to fight, and they both had a great fight, and unfortunately both of them died. And to valor their fight, the gods ensured that they would have and places in the sky. So this Orion is currently the constellation that you can see Taurus. If you like, currently it is not visible. It is not visible for the next 6 months, but still you can see the Scorpius constellation. So where it rises from the east by evening, or you can see it up high in the sky around night. So what the historic myth says is that if it is winter, Orion comes, he comes from east, he starts hunting high in the sky. But when winter ends and summer comes, the Scorpio finishes its hibernation and it comes to the sky. When it comes, the Orion is still afraid of Scorpius, that he runs away in the west. So this is nothing but a interesting myth, but we have certain important stuff to understand. Just for an clarification, this phenomenon is due to that Orion and Scorpius are exactly 180 degrees apart. So that's why this thing happens. So the next slide, please. Okay. So what I mean is that if you see a certain constellation in summer, it is not the same constellations that remain in the sky when you see those after a period of 1 month, 2 months, even at winter. So what generally happens is that if you consider yourself, if you consider yourself having a 360 rotation now, you complete a full rotation and come back to stare at your PC. But it is not the case with the with our Earth. After, like, every day the Earth completes its rotation, but still we see the constellations drifting apart. They change after every month, or even in a matter of 15 days. So this is like, if I ask you what causes this, you would answer me that it is caused by rotation or revolution. But the most important factor that is lesser understood or lesser ventured is that the phenomenon that these effects causes. It causes actually a discrepancy between the apparent time and the actual time, which is calculated by the sun's transit. So let's see what is apparent time and other stuff. Next slide, please. Okay. So the apparent time that we have here is that the time taken by the Earth to complete its rotation. So it is nothing but roughly the 24 hours time system that we generally use. But apart from this 24 hours time that we use, there is also one more time which is calculated by the diurnal motion of the sun. So if you consider yourself to that you are not considering the rotation of the Earth, but only by the position of the sun, you consider that when sun rises, it's 6 a.m. and when sun sets, it is evening 6. So from that, you start to calculate this time. This is another time that we generally use to calculate with respect to the sun's motion. So this is the time which is used in sundials too. The sundial uses the diurnal motion of the sun to calculate time. Similarly, if when I said this statement that sun rises at 6 and sets at evening 6, many of you would have thought that is not in the actual cases. In summer, you can see that the sun rises way before 6, and even in winter, the sun rises even doesn't rise even after 6. It takes nearly 6:30 and all. So what causes this anomaly? Like this proves that there is a certain time anomaly that there is present there, and analuma actually helps us to understand it. If you ask me why analuma, it is because both this time discrepancy and also the analuma are caused by the rotation and the revolution of the Earth. Rotation of the Earth around itself and the revolution of the Earth around the Sun. So, being both phenomenon having the same factors causing it, we can use one another to explain each other. So, the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the analuma of the sun at morning 6 a.m. You can find out that there is a line which is going along the analuma. So that is called as the fit line, the best fit line which goes along all the data that we have. So these data are the points are nothing but the position of the sun in the celestial sky. This x-axis, right? So this x-axis should actually be the horizon at which the Earth is there, but that is not really the what to say the horizon, but the best fit line which has been drawn here, the orange line, is actually the horizon. If you ask me why is the horizon tilted, it is due to the Earth's tilt, which is if you take a protractor and measure it, you will find it out to be 23.4 degrees. I didn't take any measurements to ensure that this line forms 23.4, but the analuma structure itself had a best fit line, which makes 23.4 degrees angle with it. So let's see working on it. Pugal, can you just take the cursor to the points below the line to your left extreme ends? So the first 2 points within the data set, I'm sorry. Okay. So the points that you can see here, right? The point before the cursor and the point exactly where the cursor is. So these are the data points that are taken in the month of June 2020. And this is the points that the next 2 points are taken in the month of July. So the points, the first point tells you the position of the sun in the celestial sky at morning 6 p.m. At July 1st, and this thing, the next point is 15. Similarly, you have for all the months till May. The May is the point where it ends. It starts here, goes down, and again comes back, and it ends here. So yeah. Thanks, Google. Okay. So you can see that there are certain periods where the sun has actually risen way before 6 p.m. Like the part of the curves which are above the analuma, which are above the fit line, and there are certain period of time where this curves are actually the sun hasn't actually risen up, but it has to be it has to rise. Google, can you go for the previous slide? Okay, there is one thing I left out. So the one thing which is meant to be, which is important to refer is that even though there are time discrepancies, the average time deviation between the diurnal motion, a time measured by the diurnal motion, and the apparent time, the 24 hours, is nearly zero. If that is the case, then there are certain period of time where the diurnal motion, the time measured by the diurnal motion of the sun, is kind of faster than the apparent time, and there are certain period of the year where the time is actually slower than the actual apparent time. So this actually complement each other. The times which are ahead and behind complement each other. They cancel out, and the net time deviation that we generally observe is more or less zero. And that is the same factor that we have seen in this pic, the Analemma figure. Google, can you go for the next slide? Okay. So this is nothing but this curve is called the equation of time. So this equation of time actually gives you the apparent difference between the apparent time and the time measured by the diurnal motion of the time. So can I call it sundial time, because it's too long to mention. So the sundial time, so the difference between them. The difference can reach up to 15 minutes max and minimum. Like the sundial time can be 15 minutes faster than it or 15 minutes slower than this. So this is actually measured here. I wanted guys to keenly notice at which period of time the time is faster, and there are certain periods where the time is lower, and you can find that there are certain 4 points where the time doesn't have an lag, like it is neither faster nor slower, it is exactly in phase with the apparent time. So I just want guys to see which period of the year those oscillations happen. Once you guys are ready, you can say yes. We'll go for the next slide to discuss this day. Okay. Hope you guys are done. Okay, fine. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is actually this is nothing but the equation of time is the analemma cut and represented in a linear way. So that is what the equation of time is all about. So here you can find out there were certain 4 points, right, where the time, both the times are in phase with each other. So these are the 4 points. From the data points that we have here, so that should be a time, like let me, I haven't gone about equinox or solstice and all. So let me guess what are those periods. So it should be June, between June and July, and it should be somewhere around September, and it should be somewhere around December, and it should be somewhere around March, I think so. Like what Google, can you just use the cursor, please? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's around mid-April. So the point which comes that there are 4 points, like 1, 2, 3, 4 points, which are roughly in line with the line. So one at the right top, two in the middle, and 1 point is actually missing because I have used limited number of points, but still it is somewhere around here where the equation of time has its solution as 0. So this thing is where, like, if you go to the previous slides, okay, so let's see where are these points here. So as I've told you, so there is a point here near June, there is a point at September, there is a point at December, and again coming back at April. Guys, just don't get confused with it being starting from January. The plotting, the data which I have collected were started from June. So I hope you are not confused with it. But you can find out that there are 4 points which are in line there, right? So those points, Google, you can come for the next slide. Okay. So in the period of June, July, August, the sundial time is kind of faster compared to the other times. Similarly, uh, after September, it tends to decrease. The sundial time tends to be slower than the apparent motion. So till December it happens. Around January, the time again accelerates. So it's kind of sundial time is faster than the apparent time, and again it dips around April, and it remains such at April, May, and June. Then after mid of June, it again the cycle goes on. So these are things. So this is how you can interpret the equation of time from the analemma. which explains you the time anomaly that is seen throughout the year. And one more thing is that those 4 points which I have mentioned previously, right? These points have a special function in our thing. The points at the mid are called as equinox. The point at the left top is the summer solstice at northern hemisphere. X-axis is the azimuthal of the sun. Azimuthal is that more or less the x coordinate of it. Maybe if you are looking at the sun, you increase your head, so that is the altitude x-axis. Then throughout you there is 360 degrees, right? So the whole 360 degrees can be taken as azimuthal. There is a slight data conversion which is need to be done in order to ensure that this graph is being represented linearly. We'll come to see that in the further slides. Hope it's clear. Okay, fine. So yeah, those 2 points, right? The point at the September and the point at the March. So those points are called as the equinox, where at the equator we have equal number of days and equal number of the day is 12 hours and the night is 12 hours, similar to the apparent time that we get due to the rotation of the earth. And similarly, the point which is at the left top, right? The point at the left top, which aligns with the best fit line. So that is called as that point where the sun there is called as the summer solstice. Actually, to be honest, the apparent time and the actual time, the apparent time and the sundial time, even at that summer solstice day, is equal. But still, we have other factors which results the summer solstice being the longest day for the people in northern hemisphere, and vice versa for the southern people. So in the southern hemisphere, the day which northern hemisphere people find it summer solstice, they find it to be the winter solstice. And similarly, around December, the southern hemisphere people have their summer solstice, where the sun, where they have the longest day and the shortest night. And similarly, the people at the northern hemisphere at December, around the December, they have the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year. So the next slide, please. You might be kind of confused, like why I have told that in spite the apparent time and the sundial time being same, they don't like the day is kind of longer at one hemisphere and it is shorter in the other hemisphere. For that, we need to look at all the Analuma data to understand it. So next is going to be a series of data which I started to collect in this holidays. The whole topic, the talk, was just to show you these data that I have collected. So the next data that you are going to see are the Analumas that are seen at different period of a day. So you know that an Analuma is formed by looking at the sun constantly for throughout the year at a particular day. But now what you're going to see is that we are going to change the time at which we are seeing the sun. So for example, we are going to see how Analuma is at 1 p.m., how is Analuma at morning 6, and all those data. So the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the clarification that people wanted. So the data is collected here where azimuthal and altitude of the sun. The altitude is how high the sun is. And the second thing is that the azimuthal is that the 360 degrees that we have around us, at which degree the sun is actually is. Generally, this is not an feasible data set that you can take to talk about celestial alignments. The more feasible data set would be hour angle and declination. But since that is something that it needs its own how to say explanations and stuff, I prevented me from going to hour angle and declination. I'll stick with the azimuthal altitude. Anyways, the data that you're gonna get are gonna be same, but just there are few slight how to say, modifications or change that is seen in the actual data, but that doesn't worry us currently. So yeah, the data which are actually expressed here, the azimuthal and altitude, will be expressed in degree, arc minute, and arc second. So this is a kind of problem. You need to, if you want to plot it linearly in a Cartesian coordinate system, you need to convert those degree, arc minute, and arc second such that it can be expressed as a decimal point, so that we don't have a problem in plotting it in the Cartesian coordinate system. So yeah. So one more additional thing that has been done is that if I collect certain data sets which are beyond 180 degree, then what happens is that I have to subtract 360. I have to subtract the data from 360 to get the new data point and use it for plotting. Why is that? This is because I'm trying to represent a circle to be a straight line. So once it has reached 180, it starts to trace back like a simple harmonic oscillator animation, which I have seen you, we have shown you previously. So that is the case why this modification generally happens. Hope it doesn't. Hope you guys are clear with it. All right, you guys are fine with it, right? Okay. So let's see the data sets now. The next slide. Okay. So this is the analemma of the sun that is seen at 2 p.m. Okay. So if you go out and look at the sun every day around 2 p.m., then after in here, the image that you get or the data set that you get resembles this kind of analemma. So, okay. So before going to the next slide, so let's have a guessing game. So next, I'm going to show you the analemma which is seen at 3 p.m. What do you guys think will happen to that analemma? Any guesses? Fine. Okay. So I get an answer that it talks that it will be flatter, and one more answer says that the curve will be more in the same plane. Okay. So let's see how the thing happens here. So can we go for the next slide? Okay. So this is the analemma that we see at 3 p.m. So what are the changes that you see here? It's shorter, right? Compared to what the analemma, yeah. So it started to shrink. For the first time when I saw this, like I totally took this data collection just to while off my time. But when I saw this, I was totally shocked to understand that why this lobe started to shrink. Okay, so next we are gonna see for 1 p.m. So currently we have the analemma at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So what do you think will be the analemma at 1? I think it's fine. Okay, you guys have guessed it right. So the next slide, Puvan. See, the analemma tends to get longer. Yes, yes, yes. The analemma now is kind of longer, no? So let's see what happens at 12 p.m. 12. Okay. So this is kind of bigger than all those things. There are certain factors which have made it to be flatter due to the Cartesian coordinate system that I have used here. You won't find such differences at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., but at 1 p.m. and 12 p.m., the analemmas seem to be kind of flattened a little bit, but that doesn't make a lot of like, since we are just analyzing here, I hope that doesn't make a lot of problem here. Okay, so now we are going to see for 11 a.m. So what are you guys guesses? Okay, so this is the graph that we get. So it started to descend and also it got shorter. So let's see the analemmas starting from 12 p.m. to midnight 12 p.m. to midnight 11 p.m. Who will the next slide? Okay, so these are the set of analemmas that we used to get uh, from afternoon 12 to night 11. So you can see that it starts to its maximum at 12. Its size is maximum at 12. It starts to shrink, and around 6 it reaches its smallest ever point. Then it starts increasing. Lol, actually I used software, so it's fine. Softwares actually help to think, like, you don't need to look all the things, and also at night you can see sun when it goes below the horizon. Yeah, fine. Okay. So these are the data sets that we have from uh, morning is afternoon 12 to night 11. So let's have and one more data set which is from midnight 12 to morning 11. Well, okay. So more or less, it seems to be kind of toppled up. Both the characters. Okay, so it seems to be toppled up. So this is what you get. You can see a drastic difference in the analemma that you can see at 12 p.m., night 12, and afternoon 12. But these effects are mostly due to the Cartesian coordinate system that I have used here. So kindly refrain from take this analemma formed at 12 out of your mind. But other than that, you can find out certain factors. Okay, so the next slide. So this is a compilation of all the analemmas that we have. Okay, so this is, you can see that the edges of all these curves actually trace a curve. Like all this analemma, the edges of all these analemma. Google, can you use the cursor, please? The edges, yeah, the edges of this side, the other side forms a kind of curve, and these are the curves that you actually see at summer solstice and winter solstice. So when you're on the northern hemisphere, what happens is that this curve starts from the east and at west, but it kind of takes the longest path which is ever possible. Rather than taking a straight direction from east to west, it starts to take a direction which is southeast, southeast to northwest. I think, yeah, it's northwest. And similarly, um, when it is on the summer solstice, it takes the vice versa. But the factor is that when you're on the northern hemisphere, the track on the left hand side seems to be the longest track ever. So it covers a longer path in the sky compared to the other end, compared to the other paths that are generally taken by the sun at the particular day. And in the northern hemisphere, at winter solstice, which comes at December, the right curve, it actually goes near to the pole, like it goes near to the south. What happens is that you can consider a ball. So if you consider a ball, you can see that the center part is kind of bulged rather than the edge parts. As you go, if you tend to go near the edge, the like the curve that it tracks, surf, uh, the surface of the sphere tracks will tend to decrease, and it nearly becomes zero at poles, right? So that is the case when it tends to go at south, towards south. What happens is that the part that the sun seems to take at the south is very small, and therefore the time period that the sun takes to uh, have its sunrise and sunset is very small for the northern hemisphere people when it is at the winter solstice, that is around December. Similarly, for the people who are at the southern hemisphere, when it is around December, they see the longest day. due to the same fact that the curve on your right hand side now tracks the longest path in the southern hemisphere. And similarly, around March, these people have the smallest ever curve. I'm sorry, March, not it's June. The smallest ever curve that they can see. Okay, so the next slide, Paul. This is the figure that you used to get with. This is the black analuma is the analuma that is taken at morning 6, and the blue analuma is actually the curve that is taken at night. I'm sorry, evening 6. So what happens here is that um, you can find that both these analumas more or like looks like a mirror image to each other, and also you can see that they have the same pattern. So that is the same characteristics that helps in the sundial time to consider that the sun rises at morning 6 and sets at 8. These two things are exactly parallel to each other, and that is the concept behind the sundial time which they use. The next slide, Pugal. Okay, so this is the analuma graphs that you get for morning 5 and evening 5. The red one is morning 5, the analuma formed at morning 5, and the violet one is the analuma that is formed at evening 5. The next slide. So similarly, you can go on further. So this is at morning 4 and evening 4. The one at the bottom is morning 4. The one at the top is evening. Yeah, I can go on next. So the green ones are the analumas that you can see at 7 p.m. That one at the top is 7 a.m. The one at the bottom is evening 7. The black ones are the analumas that are seen at morning. Morning 3 and evening 3. You can see that when it is near to the horizon, they more or less seem to be kind of an mirror images. Whereas when you tend to go further, like towards when you move it away from when the analuma moves away from the horizon, the one at the bottom tends to have a longer bigger analuma compared to the other one. So this actually tells you that due to this factor is due to the Earth's tilt, that this kind of mismatch in the size happens. So yeah, next slide, please. So this is at 12 and this is at morning thing. You can actually find out at which period of time you are actually in. Paul, can you go for the previous slide? Like consider that you are lost with like people like Bear Grylls. You don't know what to do. Like you don't have any data. You have been in coma for around 2 to 3 months. You don't know which month day it is. You are in a forest, and if you want to find out the time period where you are actually in, you can you can trace analuma the sun's position, and from the path it actually takes, you can generally find out how it works. So for example, this is the analuma that we used to take at morning 7, right? The green one at the top. So the first 2 points that we have here. So these are the 2 points that are attributed for the month of June. So if you start seeing a particular, if you start seeing the sun start moving from north towards south, and the altitude tends to decrease, then you know that you are around then you are in the month of June or July. And similarly, if you have the sun start to decline from its initial positions from south to north, so that tells you that you are around January, February, and all. So if you see the sun to rise up from south, like it rises and it starts turning from north to south, then you are actually at the January, February. So in that ways, you can actually find out those time periods, like in case if you're lost. But there is one problem here. Let me guess if you guys are finding it properly. You can find, like, if you consider the analuma plot that I have used here, the 3 p.m. plot, the black one at the top, if you see here, you can see that the graph starts from the lower end. Those two closely joined points are the data points that we collect from June, and it goes there. But if you see on the other hand, this the one at the bottom, that morning 3 analemma, is actually a mirror image of it. So what happens is that when you see it at morning 3, like if you see the analemma to go in the evening 3, starting it, if it goes from north to south, it is vice versa for the analemma that is seen at the morning 3. So there is an potential problem that we might misinterpret the data. Do you guys actually think that we could misinterpret the data now? Like that is what, like in mirror image, if you move your right hand, there it seems like your left hand is moving, right? So similarly, if you want to find out the day, like the period of month, period of a year that you are in, if you're looking at the afternoon 3 p.m. analemma and the morning 3 p.m. analemma, they seems to show you a different parts, because they are all mirror images of it, right? So here, if it seems to move from north to south, there it seems to move from south to north. So that is what I mean. Okay, fine. Let me break the answer for you. You need not to worry about the morning 3 analemma, because you don't generally see sun at morning 3. So that's the factor. So that won't confuse you in general, because this actually potentially caused me a huge headache for some time. Then I sillily realized that I had a huge dumb idea in my mind. So fine, yeah. So that was just to have a kind of fun session with you. So that's it. Pugal, you can go for it next. Well, yeah. The next slide. Okay. So yeah, that ends my talk. Yeah, that ends my talk. So thank you all for listening for me. We have spent here around an hour here. So thanks a lot.